Might not be the fastest thing I've ever driven, but it's definitely going to be one of the most ridiculous. Right then, this is a Land Rover Defender, this is a BMW N57 diesel engine, and this is a Defender with the BMW N57 engine fitted under the bonnet. So let's have a closer look at the full build. So this wonderful creation was done by Marcus at MW 4x4 Machines. We've had one of their N57 converted Defenders in before, so we'll put a link to that video in the description as well. The previous one had the later N57 35D engine. The only thing we did on that was a custom tune. I think it did about 350 horsepower, which is kind of what we expected. A little bit down as to what you'd see out of that engine in the BMW, but you have got to consider the drivetrain losses on something like this and the size of the tyres as well. So we were pretty happy with that. Marcus was pretty happy with that. We took him out on a road test, and yeah, 350 horsepower in the Defender platform itself is pretty leery. It actually drove really nice though, and as this one has as well, it's got the ZF gearbox, so it's about as close as you can get OEM wise for the N57 being in the Defender platform. There are a few small differences between that one and this one, starting with the engine. So although this is the N57 engine, this is the earlier version of it. It's got the piezo injectors. This one is the single turbo. I believe it's out of a 530 DF10. We have tuned these engines in the BMWs with the same GTD2872 Turbo on there, and seen about 420 horsepower, give or take. It'd be interesting to see what this does, as mentioned, with the drivetrain losses, and we've got some big beefy mud tyres on there as well. So we're expecting to see a little bit less, but it's nice to see around the 400 horsepower mark from this, which, as you can imagine, if you've ever drove a Defender, it's going to be pretty crazy. So I'm not entirely sure of the full specs of everything around the engine. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the engine itself is pretty much completely standard, other than our bolt-on turbo upgrade. We've also got a very distinct custom radiator, custom intercooler out front. We've got custom pipe work, custom air intake, and custom header tank with bracket and everything. I think that's pretty much it. I think we've got an exhaust system on here as well. So other than the complexity of putting this engine in the platform, the engine itself and the upgrades are pretty straightforward. So I'm going to stop waffling on. We're going to let Tom crack on with the tuning and see what power we can get out of this N57 Defender. So the results are in, and as mentioned earlier on in this video, we were aiming for around 400 horsepower, and unfortunately we've not quite made it there, but we're not far off. So we'll start with the power figure that it's actually going to leave us with. So we've got 392.8 horsepower and about 630 pounds-foot of torque, so massive torque figure, plenty of power. We did try putting a little bit more fuel in there, so the red graph, as you can see, we saw a little bit more at the bottom end, a little bit more at the top end, probably knocking on 660 pounds-foot. But as the rail pressure started to drop, basically the fuel system couldn't keep up, and obviously we've kind of lost a little bit power here at the bottom end. So although the peak figures are better, the green graph is going to drive much nicer because it's a lot smoother power curve all the way through the rev range, and we're not risking it going into limp mode for the rail pressure drop as well. So 392.8, I think that's more than enough in a Defender. Well, to be fair, it's more than enough in most cars, but especially in a Defender. Considering that there is going to be a percentage loss as well through the drivetrain and the big mud tyres, I would say if you literally took the full engine setup out of that, put it in a BMW, would be into the 420s, something like that, I'd have thought, with this setup. So yeah, let's get some cameras in it and let's see what it drives like. So out in the Defender, first thing to note is it has got power steering, so it's not too hard to steer, but the steering lock in these is terrible. So I've just had to do a 3-point turn to get out of somewhere that would normally take a U-turn. I've hit my elbow a few times already, but that's just one of the quirks of having a Defender. Other than that, it's quite a nice place to be. We've got some nice Harris tweed, trimmed leather seats, nice armrest, cup holders, radio. We've got some analog gauges and a digital gauge in the centre. Oh, we've got pop-off steering wheel. Race car. So, first thing to note in here, if you can't already tell on video, is that it's pretty loud. There's definitely not the luxury of sound deadening in here. I mean, it is a soft top as well, so technically it hasn't even got a roof to help with the sound. It'll be pretty fun in the summer. You've got all this power with the top off. Oh, it just gets louder. Already feels like it's going to be a handful. I think the engine noise helps drown out the flapping from the cover on the back. This might not be the fastest thing I've ever driven, but it's definitely going to be one of the most ridiculous. Whoa, just hear that 2872 wanting to spool. I've just noticed that I've got no speedo as well, so I've got no concept of speed, which makes this camera pretty irrelevant. Might as well turn that off. It handles pretty well for what it is. I have got a digital rev gauge though. Can't believe how loud this thing is. I've not said it in a few videos, but this definitely warrants mental status. This is 100% one of the most mental cars I've ever driven. Woohoo! This thing's mad. Struggling for words to actually describe how mental this is. The last Defender that I drove that were about 350 horsepower, that was a bi-turbo and the power just seemed to come in a lot more gradually, whereas this, one big single turbo, so it just comes in with one big bang. As crazy as this car might be, and I'm not a massive expert on Defenders, I've not drove loads of them, but driving this is actually pretty nice. Oh man, this is fun. This is very fun. only certain cars, I mean a lot of people say you can't have too much power, and there's certain cars that just shouldn't have 400 horsepower, 600 and odd pounds-foot of torque, whatever it did on the dyno, and this has got to be one of them. You really have to battle with the steering wheel. The torque just wants to pull you into a ditch. Luckily you're in a Defender, so if you do get pulled into a ditch, then chances are you can get yourself out of it. So there is no doubt about it with this car that the customer is going to be very, very happy. I'm sure Marcus is going to be very happy as well. He's got the pleasure of actually handing this over to the customer, and obviously seeing the customer's reaction when he gets to drive it for the first time with nearly 400 horsepower. So I'm going to head back to the workshop now anyway. We've got a few final checks to do on this before Marcus comes and collects it tomorrow. So hopefully you've liked this video, definitely something different to what we normally do. If you have enjoyed it, please click the like button, subscribe for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.